Yo, so my custom feature was controller support for my game engine, and when I last left you, all I had implemented was the left stick, and it supported a very low level of gameplay. There wasn't much it could do other than just move around, and so we have now added, as you can see in my input class, we have left stick like before, and then we have get access for the trigger, controller rumble, and also the classic D-pad buttons that most controllers would have. And so let's see that action before we get into it too much. I'm using a Switch controller right now instead of a PS5, which I used last time, and I'll explain why in a second.
Mission start.
So here we can see the movement. That's the A button launching there. And if I were to use a PS5 controller, the right trigger would also launch, and I'm assuming that would also work on an Xbox controller. And then the rumble, we take damage. I have to put the controller up to my AirPod, but
Ugh,
hopefully y'all can feel
ugh,
or hear that action there.
ugh.
So that is what I have added
Game over.
since last time. And so yeah, the reason I'm using a Switch controller for this particular demonstration was that I was having some issues adding the rumble to my PS5 controller. It just wasn't working, and I was doing some research, and apparently some sources were saying I needed to include STL haptic connected to a joystick here and try to get it that way, but I couldn't get it to run. And then after some other research, I discovered it kind of most people say it has to be connected to your computer via USB if you want any of that kind of action. So the Switch controller was it worked no problem. So then I was doing the demonstration there, but you can see the changes. First, I guess we can go to input.h and we can just take a look. Again, it's all using SDL. They have all this implemented in SDL, and we have our new functions. We have left stick from 4-axis, which we have a map that gets our axis states to record how hard the trigger is pressed. And right now I have it where in Lua, I'm gonna pull that up. This is gonna take a second. I don't remember where I put it. Um, in I'm gonna pull up Visual Studio. Excuse me. Actually, if I have in a different project, we're just gonna do this real quick. See if I end up cutting this. Um, Here we go. Yeah. So in Lua, you can decide how strong you want your trigger press. Right now, I have it at 0, so literally any like slight touch will launch a projectile. But you can move that up to, I think, all the way up to 1. I could be wrong, and that would be like all the way down, but I'm 100% sure. So that's whoever's using my engine can customize that in Lua. So then I have the trigger, and then I have controller initialized to nothing like before, haptic, which I didn't really end up using. And then yeah, rumble here also can get some input from the user who's making the game, can get the different levels they want it to rumble and how long they want it to rumble, which again, if we go here, down here we could see rumble with some random arbitrary amount of time and duration, but that's customizable. And yeah, and the cool thing about the buttons, it was very similar to, as you can see just by the names, that they're very similar to the keys and how they operate. So I don't need one function for each button. It's kind of, you can take in all the different D-pad buttons and run them that way. And we can take a look at those functions. We add these in my process event. I mean, all of my different, any way I can get input, you can see it's here. Get the controller buttons to map the states. And then like the keys, I also have it in late update as well, wherever I put that. Yeah, right here, the controller buttons. And then I have all the other input like before. But yeah, that's about everything. That's how I implemented that. That's how that works. So we'll go check back at that Lua real quick just to see it. Yep, we got all that there. All right in the input. So yeah, that was how I implemented um, the controller for my game engine, and this should work for I think because I mapped it to the PS5 controller initially, and just tried the Switch controller and everything worked, but the trigger because obviously the Switch controller doesn't have a trigger, so everything mapped it perfectly. So this should work for most controllers. So all you got to do is just add the Lua if you want to use a controller for your game. So thank you for watching. Peace.